Lenart here for Jewelry Talk today, trying to get everything set in here. How are you guys doing? We are finally getting some gorgeous weather here in Cleveland. Hello, good morning. There's Christina and Cheryl. Good morning, you guys. Marlene Brannon, nice to see you guys. Good morning or good afternoon. It always feels like still part of the morning for us here on the East Coast, for me anyway. So, hey you guys, this is Jewelry Talk, and this has to do with holistically everything to do with jewelry, adornment, and that includes a lot of research in history, the way things were worn, why they were worn, for weddings, ceremonies, dance, performances, fashion, runway, history. So for me, it's like I've been in jewelry for, hello everyone, good morning. I've been in jewelry for, and also the spiritual and the yoga side of things and getting clear and be able to come in and build. So you guys know I have my intentional metalsmithing program. Good morning. And so I teach and mentor students to grow who you are and what your work is about. So yes, I teach my techniques, but it's all about you and finding your place and finding who you are and what you have to offer in the world. Yay, does that make sense? Good morning. Nice to see you guys. Wonderful. So today is Thursday and this is called Jewelry Talk. And I know I have a good subject. It's kind of like I realize it's better for me to kind of look at a big broad subject and bring it into a small one. So I always have a subject matter when I show up. And then if anyone has any questions at the end, I'm going to be happy to answer questions on techniques or different things going on. But yesterday I talked with my intentional metalsmithing group within the group. So if you guys are in the group, you can pop on that one and we kind of got updated for everything. Good morning, everybody. Nice to see you. There's Christina. Here is Christina. She's my right-hand man, and her and I work together on a lot of the behind the scenes. We have a lot of things going on. I'm super excited for what's coming. One of the things that I'm putting on there for you guys for free is see these gorgeous dies on here. You know, in some of the work, it's like we use a lot of these dies. I have it in this work here. I have it in a lot of pieces, the shot plate and dies. And yesterday, after I talked, I was able to go ahead and get this filmed. Now, Christina is the fun part of putting it all together. But I'm actually showing how to work these dies in a whole new way that you're not used to doing, I think, you know. Usually, these are a little bit bigger than shot plate. So I'm actually using some cut discs and I'm developing, you know, I'm getting these really kind of dimensional forms here. So that's filmed and Christina's going to have that up soon. I think we're putting that right onto YouTube, right, Christina? And then these are all for sale. I have more of these that are going to be on my site on Friday, and they're all these gorgeous Indian patterns. So exciting. I am so excited working with this. So a little bit what I was talking about in my group is that when you're excited about something, you know, I couldn't wait to get in my studio and start building with these pieces, you know, and just creating and using these forms. Look at how high up that form comes, you know. So it'll be posted on Instagram today. Okay, you guys, Christina's going to have the film. It was, you know, it's kind of a long one, a little bit detailed. We're going to even show where you can get the tools from. And I'm going to have that on Instagram later today. So you guys can pop on and get the technique down and see if you like using it in your work. If it's something you love, do it, you know. It really is nice adding in all these extra symbolism. Our work is all about symbolism. You know, whether we think we build with symbolism or not, we're drawn to different shapes, different symbolism, different sizes, you know. I'm kind of really coming into these floral type things and I'm loving, look at how deep this piece is here. This one is pretty cool, but it's like, you know, just these big dimensional. So it's like circular shapes are meant for endless life. The florals are just to bring the whole beauty into the world, you know. So I love all of that. This is kind of, you know, just all different shapes for abundance. A lot of times symbolism is for prosperity, abundance, you know. I didn't necessarily mean to talk about so much symbolism today, but these type of shot plate, and they're called shot plate, or, you know, to tool and die guys, they're called dyes, negative or positive dyes. So, that's to like the machine guys who work like, building tool and die for Ford plants and machinery. There's these hardcore guys that are building these to be able to press the parts of cars out. Some of them are really big. We like using them on a small scale from India, because India does a lot of die pressing in their work, a lot of the dimensional die pressing, which I'll talk about at another time coming up here. Oh, no self-promotion. That's right. Sorry. Thank you, Christina. So today, what I want to talk about, within our group, this is always a good one. What I want to talk about today is, I brought this book. I know I talked a lot about the legacy. This is on my YouTube station. And this one actually, I did a lot of reading over the summer of this book, and I know I've used it and talked about it over the summer. And I know you guys probably even have this one. This one is so amazing to me. It's called Legacy, and it's Matthew Shami, and he traveled all over West Africa, and he actually really documented all of these fabulous silversmithing ways that people are building their work from there. And Tim McRae published this, and from there, they actually came up with a lot of money, and there was a lot of donations that were sent to these West African jewelers. But it was so fascinating because this on the cover is literally a one jeweler's collection of tools that he used. And some of these tools were handed down from so many generations. So, it's like just generations would be a pair of pliers. So when you had a pair of pliers, you coveted your pliers. You coveted your hammer. In some cases, your hammer, this one was one that was getting a little loose on me, so we maybe put it together with glue. Well, in these different parts and in earlier times, there was one silversmith in this book that would just at night soak his hammer in water so it would swell. The wood would swell, and then he'd come in and he'd have a whole day in the heat working with this hammer, but the wood would be swelled enough so it would hold his hammer in place. By the end of the day, his hammer was loose, the top, and he'd soak it again until he had to recarve his wood and replace his wood. So in thinking about that, I always loved thinking about how people did these amazing pieces and didn't have everything at their fingertips. So this is what fascinates me, is this whole simplicity. It's my whole nomadic travel and nomadic building as a silversmith. So, for me, when I was younger in my 20s, living in Chicago in the United States, I would sometimes think I didn't have enough, or, I remember the first time that I went overseas to Thailand and I had like $1,000 with me to buy and bring home. And when I got over into Thailand, this was in the late 80s, early 90s, I could see what people were working with and how happy their lives were. And they just didn't need all of these things back in the 90s as many people that I knew felt, So it's always a reality check for me to research pieces like this. Also, I always talk a little bit about, as soon as you show your pieces, to feel the confident behind the tools you're working with. I put together this silversmithing program in intentional metalsmithing so we can feel confident, and use our right side of our brain in creating and putting together interesting things while you're building and learning your craft, So it's kind of really valuable that way. But it was really interesting to me because I also found out all over West Africa, a type of torch like this is used to this day. Like, that's really a type of torch. But, it's kind of crazy to think. And I used to work in I used to work in a place where we bought African art, we bought beautiful African silver and talisman, and I did huge studies when I was with the Greater Chicago Bead Society. Really, it's like I had such a passion to research all of these beautiful silver work and beads and metals that were out in West Africa. I haven't been to West Africa. I've been to East Africa. I was always a little nervous going to West Africa. French is spoken at the core language, but I feel like a lot of governments still turn over too easily for me to be out there, but we'll see. But scary. But the interesting thing is that I wanted to talk about torching and soldering for West African jewelers. There's a little section in here that's so fascinating to me. So, in the first place, it's so interesting because there's actually a variety of different gases that will be used, and then there's a variety of different soldering processes. So as far as gases, some of the things that are used, which is crazy to think, it's propane. And I know if you guys have heard me talk before, I say, I started using and being interested in propane for soldering because I can find, in butane, I can find butane universally in any country I show up in. There usually is butane and, some type of a firing system with butane. That's probably one of the most common I find. Sometimes there's propane. Sometimes what is used is gasoline. And sometimes what's used is charcoal. So let me talk about gasoline. I don't know if you guys have ever been out at a fire and thought, oh, here, I could get my fire going with gasoline. Has anyone, I've seen the guys do that before. Oh, yes. Yes, spread your wings. Excellent, Deborah. I love that. So, gasoline, in thinking about using gasoline as a gas, it's really interesting because especially in Guinea, the jewelers there, you just use a tiny bit of gasoline because it's so explosive. And I have seen, in my 20s, I've seen someone, decide to stoke the fire and put gasoline in the fire. And gasoline is literally explosive. I don't know if you guys know that. Confidence is beautiful. Yes. And the spirit of making, and that is so true. That's, the beauty of Susan giving us that permission. Absolutely. It really is, because, what I think for me, when I talk about in the course, when I talk about my history and my background, I talk about, for me, it's always been a search of simplifying and clearing and coming at your, what's really important to you and finding your symbolism of what's really important to you. Because when you can clearing, which is this exercise that's coming in, that will be, the artist's breath of clearing, then, once you're clear, only the universe will bring you in your real stuff. You'll be able to get at your real stuff. And that's why it's really important, when you're shooken up through experiences in life, that clearing. This morning I had a lot of clearing to do just with, just different family things going on. We know our families, right? I mean, it's fun. I love my family, but man, does it sometimes get at different times. Last year, oh my gosh, I had such a peaceful year last year where I got into my studio every day. This year is requiring more clearing so I can get at my real stuff. So back to, I wanted to talk about the gases. So, think about this. There are some people that come on and it's like, these aren't appropriate, they're throwaway, you pollute the world. But, this actually, I did the whole 7 films of intentional metalsmithing with 1 can of gas. Once you know your gas, you don't use up very much of it, So it's a lot of this practice. But, it's this type of head. I've had heads I've used for a couple years, Then I've also had heads that have come in that weren't really that, this head, that weren't really going to hold up very long at all, just like anything. It's kind of some of them were default. So gases in West Africa were butane, propane, gasoline, and charcoal. How interesting is that? Think about this. And this is some reading that I had done on Native American Indian jewelers back in the 1400s. Literally charcoal, heating up charcoal, because you can trust charcoal to hold a flame for a long period of time. So it's not fire. This is my charcoal block that I'll use in soldering. But charcoal is not a fire, so you're not trying to solder over a fire because that doesn't get that hot. But anytime you can get fire embedded into charcoal or into your screen, where you're working, you're gonna have an object or a steel or a charcoal that holds heat and radiates heat, and it's consistent. So charcoal, you know, really was a way. And think about it for some of your projects. If you're, you know, maybe when you're going around and putting the shot plate, the granulation on the side, it might be a little bit more difficult to use, to use the charcoal. But say if you had a piece like this and you laid everything down on here, you're almost annealing. Some of our, to get everything hot at the same time, you're almost like annealing from underneath, and that's what we most of the time do in our soldering. Does that make sense? Hey, you guys, thanks for joining me. Nice seeing you. So charcoal. So those were the 4 types of gases. The charcoal is literally just a fire with charcoal, and then you could solder. So it's kind of interesting, Okay, so and I told you the gases, I told you the charcoal. I told you the, charcoal, so that's the gases from a fire. Okay, oxygen, so we know, with these torches, they literally bring oxygen right into, it pulls it right in. I love these torches that just suck oxygen from the air. My acetylene tank is actually the exact same way. My acetylene tank will pull oxygen in from the air. So I just have one tank. I love just having one tank. When you have to start buying oxygen, it gets expensive. And then you get afraid to use your oxygen, So that's kind of nice with tools. So the way that is worked in West Africa to get some of this, the gas, is a foot pump, a bellow. I've seen that done in Indonesia. You literally have a bellow on the ground and you're pumping air into your work to get things stoked and get things hot. Especially if you have a piece of charcoal, you're pumping this in. So it's a foot pedal. A lot of times it's recycled and built from inner tubes, tires, inner tubes, things like that. Another way is, so the other parts are, so there's a foot tool, there's a steel can that is made to hold the gas. And a lot of times it's interesting because if there's gasoline in there, they'll just put in a small amount of gasoline, and it's just the vapors from the gasoline. So they just want to, the can is maybe this big and they just want a tiny little bit of gasoline in the bottom, and the vapors with the oxygen being pushed out will give you a nice fire. So your gasoline goes a long way. So I guess that's pretty good. So that's kind of interesting. And then the torch, and all their torches usually are hand built, prior to people giving these donations. The torches are hand built of copper. They usually have another handle that stands outside here, to move it around, because you don't necessarily, the part of it is just too hot. If it's copper, it just contains all that heat. And sometimes there's it's called an air bladder that kind of holds extra oxygen. So you're not always pumping. If you need to sit there and focus, you can also get extra oxygen going. So it's so interesting. I think it's so interesting with, with some of the ways that people build and use their tools. This also, they do have a type of torch there that, it's something like this. It looks close to this. But in this case, most people who use a torch like this, they actually just leave their torch on all the time, and then they're moving your hands around in front of it and moving your piece around and holding your piece up and working in this way rather than us working in this way, So it's kind of interesting. It's like, talk about, so many times we hear over and over that there's only one way to do things, So this to me really opens my eyes and lets me see, just all these different ways that you can solder if you had to, what an interesting history on how all these gorgeous pieces were built. I had a piece, where's my piece? Right up here. And this is the way some of it is. Do I have it right here? I had a gorgeous African, oh, here it is. So this piece actually right here is from West Africa. And you could see this type of work that was done with it. The back is copper and the front is silver. And I think it's filled with a pitch. But this is one of the techniques they show there. There's granulation on here. and patterning and, you know, etching in here with the hand tool, literally by pushing a hand tool, which is kind of interesting. Please don't try this at home. Please don't try this at home. That's right. Yes. Okay, but here's a formula for you guys, and I actually did this formula in to make solder. So there's ways to make solder and make flux, which you could try at home if you wanted to. Half Moon Bay over the weekend. You did, Christina. And they were were they made in America, or were they made? They were ancient pieces from Africa. Nice. Okay, so, you know, really, if you think about it, like even when I'm in Mexico or Indonesia, or, you know, people don't have a Rio Grande. So, so when you think about it, people came in and to mix your solder, you're literally taking, okay, what is it? One gram of silver, half a gram of brass, and mixing it in to a medium solder. That's it. And that's what I did in Mexico too. And rolled out, I've got a beautiful piece right here that I rolled out. I love this solder too. And you know, we rolled out our silver, we mixed copper into silver, and you can, you know, most of the time when we mix the silver, it wasn't a 97, it was 92.7. It wasn't 92.7, it was, we did a higher silver content, so we didn't have to pickle all the time. You know, if you think about it, if you can mix a little higher than sterling silver, you actually could get in there and solder your piece and go back again and again, and you still have a strong piece from the copper. Field day fun, Half Moon Bay, yay! Yeah, fun. I know we're finally getting some nice weather. I won't be able to get to Half Moon Bay, but I am going somewhere. So this was my solder that I rolled out. You know, once I had a chunk, I just kept rolling it through the rolling mill. This is a medium solder, and this one I made in Mexico. It's beautiful. So that's the formula of medium solder, is 1 gram silver, half a gram brass, as mixed in West Africa. Melted together on a wooden block, and you put a little pinch of borax in there because that actually is flux, just to keep everything clean, and burn it out and melt it down and get it into a block and roll it out or hammer it out. That's it. Yes, in liquid form. Do you guys know how to mix in liquid form? This is actually a butane or a MAP gas. You can get everything in. So if I measured out 1 gram of silver, threw it in there, and a half a gram of brass, threw it in there. You know, whether you're using wire, you'd have to use like a silversmith grade. You know, put it into here. We're just heating it right under, heating it. You need like I tell you what you need is like a dapping block, or like you need a piece of metal to pour it into. Now, people have asked me this question: if you try pouring it into here, you're not going to get this pattern, because by the time the liquid hits this, it will be so cold, it's not going to fall down into the parts. It's going to shrink away from my metal block. So it's going to shrink away from it and become more like a ball inside here. The good thing is it's not going to stick, but you won't get that pattern. But say even for lack of nothing else, you know, I would probably pour it into a metal dapping block, which I have right here. Let me grab one. Or, you know, if you don't have an ingot, if you do not have an ingot, you guys like how I keep talking? Don't use your bronze one. Don't use your brass. You need to use steel. You know, and you could pour it like right into one of these areas here. You know, I've got a lot of these dapping. I had some dapping on the side too. So, and then, you know, while you're still heating it, you have to still be heating it and then pour at the same time. And you'll get every bit of drop out of there. Once you get your chunk, roll it through the mill. You can see how many times I rolled this through and got a nice piece of my own solder. That's really kind of fun to do. Now, if I wanted an easy solder, which I think I told you guys my whole experience when I was in Mexico, I built my whole piece with medium solder. Every single detail, layers and layers and layers, I built with medium solder. And it gave me such an interesting discipline to, you know, to really know when to get in and out, really know your product well, know your know your stuff well. You know that? Good. So, so if you wanted an easy solder, you just would use 1 gram silver, 1/2 gram of brass, and then add a tiny bit of zinc. That zinc melts at a real low temperature, so that and it's interesting because in the book you'll see, you know, they'll test zinc. Like there's actually a water bottle that the bottom of it is built with zinc, and they'll just clip off little pieces of metal that they find, you know, that's part of their containers, or, you know, things are thought of in that way. I remember in the 70s, jewelers were always out looking for silver plates and forks and spoons because people would just be like, these things are blue and dirty, I'm getting rid of this, you know, before silver had such value universally. So, I mean, prior in the 80s, you could go to a different country and silver was priced so differently. How crazy is that? Yeah, 1 gram of silver, half a gram of brass. And then if you want easy, you just throw in a little pinch of zinc and you've got it. And then you know, you can get one of these at Rio Grande. You can get this at Rio Grande. It's not that expensive. This is ceramic, by the way, you know, and it can be removed if it's damaged. So you know, it's just like a clip. It can be removed by just squeezing it, changing it out. So that's kind of that, which would be really cool. So that really is, and then you could either hammer it flat, put it through your when you are mixing your own solders, your own fluxes, you really kind of gets you to be so familiar with your product. And if you go back to the raw, somehow it's easier, you know, this just raw, simplistic products. Flux all over West Africa is just borax. I mean, I don't know if you guys know that. Borax, you know, the laundry detergent that was around forever? It actually was a laundry booster that everybody used in their clothing. Borax is flux. What flux actually is, it's like it's almost like it reminds me of a fiberglass. It reminds me of fiberglass. That's what it reminds me of. But it's actually a little light coating of glass that coats your piece. When you put the liquid, you know, you put your liquid flux on there. Here's my flux here, you know. When you put your liquid flux on it and then fire it, you're literally putting a coating of glass around your silver piece or the piece that you're soldering. So, you know, then it's protected and you're not going to get that fire scale. So that's the whole thing about flux, is you don't want that fire scale. So borax is used there. You just mix a little bit of borax, that laundry booster, in with water. You have your container, and then you're good to go, you know? It's by the bleach in the supermarket. I was like, uh-oh, don't use bleach. Yeah, it's right by the bleach because it takes out. So, you know, if you guys, like, say you can't get your flux somewhere, I certainly have showed up to teach and the product wasn't shipped there on time, you know? So it's like you really could run to the store. And I always I think for me, because I used to teach for so long and I'd show up and maybe boxes wouldn't be there, or maybe they would, you know, or maybe, oh my gosh, there was once where a UPS box like cracked open and lost all my torches and soldering and silver that I needed for for my project, for my students. And it's like, if people are flying from all over and coming in, I had to know these alternative ways to mix solder if the solder didn't make it, to a way to create pickle if the pickle didn't make it in. In fact, pickle you create by, you could literally do vinegar and lemon, a little bit of squeezed lemon in there. And you have, you know, and then add some water and you've got pickle. It's just a light form. You could even use a little bit of salt in there to, you know, it's a corrosive, just to take all that fire scale off of there. So, you know, all of these products that we buy, you know, in its regular form, you know, all the fluxes, all the products that we're buying, all the pickles, you know, it really started off as a simplistic, unfinished product before, you know, it got to these big products. So kind of interesting. I think it is anyway. So, yeah. So that's kind of what I want to say about the torches. Just a little bit about, you know, again, it's like feel so lucky that we have Rio Grande that we can call and order our filigree. You know, I was talking to We were planning a trip to India, which is now delayed. It was going to be in January. We're going to do it again. It's delayed. But, I was talking to some of the silversmiths out there, and, I was asking about what kind of filigree, and it came to my attention that they build their own filigree bezel wire. That's all built, all of this, just all of this filigree and layers of granulation is all hand built. Supermarket soldering, yay! Supermarket soldering, I love that. Yeah, to the simplistic, supermarket soldering. And, for me, it's like, I kind of do like to keep things as simple as I can. I inhale and exhale, I expand and then come back again too. It's like, as long as I have a good set of pliers, a good set of snips, a good jeweler's saw, it's like these core pieces. Again, I'm super excited about getting out into Morocco. We're on for Morocco. I hear Morocco didn't really get hit that hard with COVID, at least the second time around, where India had a lot of trouble. They're starting to cool off there. I'm hearing from people who live there, although in the US, I think we're still hearing how horrible it is, So anyway, I am vaccinated, so I could travel. That's one of my number one priorities, is to be able to travel, bring my nomadic case around, be inspired, look at the world, bring it all in through my eyes and reinterpret it through my work. And that's what we do, right, guys? So, that being said, there was little tidbits in here about making your own solder, making your own flames, how things started, just really what some people around the world are working with now, So, but I want to tell you guys tomorrow, so today, remember, I'm giving you guys a demo. You guys will get to see all how I use these pieces. I mean, you could use them as shot plate, but it's so much fun with this sheet metal. And it'll be on here later today. So you guys will get to see. Oh, good. You guys will get to see. I just kind of talked about it. I talked it through. We gave you guys some tools that are on Rio. You might find little pieces of tools laying around. Again, I talked to you guys about kind of inventing your own. When you guys watch this on Instagram today and get this technique down, please don't feel like you have to run out and buy all these tools, You might someday, but, for now, it's like I always like, absence is the mother of invention. So see what you have around, play with different things you have around to get these nice Dapton shapes in there. And then, we'll see, oh, I just love those shapes. This one especially, love, love, love. So, and see what you guys can do with it. Oh, thank you. You are in Hawaii. How amazing is that? So yeah, so I also have some other, I have the gorgeous druzy coming on, I think. I have some beautiful pieces from MAC that were done. I told you, here, I'll show you guys. Oh, here's another floral piece. So these type of dies will be on my website, these type of dies. This is some of MAC's components that were raku. So I have some of these. I talked her into letting me have some, I actually purchased some and I put it on to see if anyone is interested in the raku objects. It's like, oh my gosh, it's such a bright, gorgeous color. Really, it reminds me of enamel work, and it's so vibrant. Do I have videos on how you do your, yeah, that's actually in the first, okay, so you guys know in Intentional Metalsmithing, my course, I have a whole, first of all, once you take a class right now, the whole Alchemy of Soldering is free. That course is always free. And it's all the setup and it's all the beginning information. It's a long one and it's a $250 toolkit on getting into this course. And then from there, if you take the first course is Bezels Expanded, which is this, kind of this type of thing, Bezels Expanded. How do you expand on, this is also Bezels Expanded. How do you expand on your work? This is Bezels Expanded, how do you expand? And then on your bezels, how do you expand? Layers, jeweler's saw, tool, different things, different techniques. It's a it's an amazing course. The next one is on everything about wire. I tell you everything I know about wire, and then you're building projects, building all these projects here, twisted wire, square wire, all these projects, hammered wire, how to make all the head pins on the end, how to make the endings, how to make the twists. All of this is on here of wire. And then expanded from there is really using wire, almost like a filler, almost like how to use it in action with cutout spaces and, a lot of elements like that. I don't have anything on there now that really talks about it. Then I have caging, which expands into all types of caging, which is caging a stone, freeform caging, just caging negative space. Then it goes into hollow forms, which this is a hollow form here. Then this is a hollow form here. And then it goes into all using up your scraps, which is all about, the last chapter is all about this here, these dies. It's all about, kind of using scrap for bezel setting. It's really a really creative way. Oh, and in there is also a whole chapter on assembly. People will tell me that what they love best is my assembly. So I literally give like a lecture in there about my assembly. I show you 25 different links on connecting pieces together. How you'd want to connect things from the side like this, how you'd connect things this way. All these little hidden connections, all these little, like this is something I'm building here. These are earrings. And if you guys look at the back of this, it's going to be a connection on here. So a person who wears these can decide if they want them short, or if they just want to, I'm going to have another piece that goes with it, or if they want to build them long and put the extra extension on, so it's all this little extra stuff that's so interesting to make your pieces different. You guys will make your pieces, you'll take my information and you'll reinterpret them into your own. So you'll have your own look and your own work. I promise you. I did this already with the first group of people, and I was so amazed at, we all worked through the course and we all had, see, and making it. So put the modules on over and over. You guys are always going to have your modules. So if you're, yay, you're going to be in the studio today. Fantastic. So you guys, 2 to 3 times, three times are better to be in your studio every week. And you guys will, you'd be surprised. It's like there's some days where I think, oh my gosh, I'm hardly getting anything done. And then I look and see what I did for the week. And then I look and see what I did for 2 weeks. And then I look and, and it's really kind of fun to get these nice bodies of work put together. And you could see where they just kind of slowly, evolve forward 1 inch at a time with the same style, Like, look, these 2 pieces seem pretty similar. And they are, but this one actually is built, this one's built with a bezel wire. This one's built with a cage because I wanted to cage a spine, for power and strength. I always use that, and then I wanted to put a die on here to really kind of center and get in there. This piece I built at the same time. So if you look at the difference evolved, you can see that they're related to each other and they're from the same family, but they are, built completely differently. So kind of fun, to see. If you get in there 3 times a week before your mind changes and you're going to see a month later that your work looks completely different than it did the month before, right? If you're evolving and growing. So does that make sense? Oh my gosh, you guys. The creative practice is so important. Absolutely. So I am going to have a little bit of time in my studio today. And it'll be really fun. And, here's a piece with the mastodon. Some people got some of this mastodon. I love these really long pieces that go across my wrist. A lot of times I make them long this way. But to me, I just need another one to go alongside of it. Like I need, everybody knows what they need and love. So that's kind of fun. So I can't wait to see. Again, I want to thank so many people. I know you guys got your jewelry in. I had a big jewelry sale. Good. I had a big jewelry sale last weekend, and I'm so grateful to all you guys. And tomorrow is Friday, and within Intentional Metalsmithing, you guys are all welcome to sell extra pieces and parts and things that you have in your studio. You're more than welcome. So, and I am too. So I'm going to have my store open tomorrow at 9 a.m. 6 a.m., 9 a.m., Christina knows. So we just are here in the office, there's the office back here, and here's my studio. So I try to keep this the real creative area, But so we did a lot more of these dies will be in there, these Indian dies. I have more coming. I'm super excited. I'm in heaven with these, and I'm really excited. This is a technique that I developed myself. So if you guys love this technique and you're using it, please pass my name on or refer people, to this technique here. Usually people are using a hydraulic press to press, and you have to go 5-10 times and kneeling to get this, dapped out in there. But I'm like, why? I always like things simpler. So this is my way of how I am hand forming these negative dies into the positive die. So, aw, thank you. I'm so happy to have you guys on here. So, yes. So, pop on, see what dies I have. I really appreciate it. I love Jewelry Talk so much. It's like, I think when I started a year ago, I didn't even realize, I've been in this field for so long, all different aspects. I have been in the commercial markets. I used to sell to Nordstrom and Banana Republic and Sundance, and I've done museum exhibits with my jewelry. I've done galleries in New York City. I've done, the Art Institute in New York. I've done the Art Institute of Chicago. I've done, in all different areas. I've done industrial chic, which was like the craft of craft, built in China. But it was so interesting to see the whole process. I've done so much marketing. I've known so many people. It's really fun for me to kind of, as I'm breathing and taking time and coming back to my roots, I'm seeing, I'm coming back around to this original space, and I'm meeting up with people who I knew for all these years. I'm also in fashion, and I've been in runway because the reason why I am in fashion and runway and in performance pieces, for me, the performance pieces stem from my travels into up in remote areas where people just didn't wear jewelry to walk down the street. You wore jewelry to carry your wealth with you because you were in a nomadic culture, and you also wore jewelry to carry your wealth. You don't want to stick everything in pockets. You don't have walls to put things on at home. Every time you got coins, why bother shoving them in your pocket? People way back in time melted down coins and built beautiful jewelry to wear and adorn. And you had your warriors around you. You're with your whole group of people. You had your warriors around you. So you could walk down the street wearing layers of all your stuff. You know what I mean? It's like, you don't want to walk down the street by yourself in the middle of the old south side of Chicago where I grew up. It's like growing up on the south side of Chicago, I learned a different language. I knew how to, you could cross one block and you're in a wealthy area of the museums. You go to another block and you're in a very poor area. So it's like we kind of learned to stay, with your posture and with your jewelry. You go like this, walking through the nice neighborhood, and then you have to learn to kind of throw a little something over you and pull yourself in a little bit to walk down the street in a different neighborhood. That actually, I realized, is a skill of mine. You wouldn't think it'd be a skill, right? So interesting. Oh, I'm so glad. So, and here's the thing. I'm so glad because it's so important, you guys, your work in the world and my work too. The thing that I learned is that, I did a lot of clearing and a lot of centering and a lot of yoga and a lot of meditation. And the clearer I can show up, the clearer, hopefully, you can show up. You know what I mean? It's like I clear, I'm showing ways that I clear. We need artists and creative people in the world. We need you clear. We need artists and creative people clear in the world. If you're not clear, if people are walking around damaged or unclear, it's harder. Maybe you don't want to, if you're still kind of in this thought process of, I want to be the best one. I don't want my neighbor to do a better job than me. If you think about it, if a person is clear, they're happy and centered, and they're much more willing to want you to also bring yourself up, because it doesn't take anything away from me. So the clearer you get, the safer you are around this person. It's someone who's not clear, who's thinking, how can they steal your idea, and how can they steal this, or how can they steal that? If you're clear, you know, you're doing your own work, and if you happen to morph techniques into your own work that's bringing your soul joy, that's exactly who you want to be, you know, in your work. So I'm really hoping everybody, I love getting on our Facebook group. I love seeing so much beautiful work from clear people. So thank you guys so much. I am so grateful to have you guys around, and I'm so grateful that you guys are doing your work and showing up as a healthy, creative person in the world and doing beautiful posts. And, you know, we're all here for each other. We're building a market for ourselves too, guys, you know? We're building a market. So the philosophy of Susan Leonard. Oh, there's hi there. Nice to see you. How's your hand doing? Joni's hand, she got an operation. So rest it a little, and then you're going to be back on the boat getting your own stuff again too. All right, you guys, listen, I love you. I've got some things to do. I want to get in my studio, get some things finished up. Tomorrow, pop on my site. You guys will get to see some of these tools. Pop on my Instagram this afternoon, and Christina will be able to get up that technique. So super exciting, you guys. Let me know what you think too. I always love inventing techniques. All right, you guys, have a nice day. Mwah.